In life, there are moments of time to make a difference for someone. I'm always talking about making moments matter. This used to be my concept of take back talk because I lost two of the most important people of my adult life. When I mean loss, I don't mean they necessarily died, but the loss of someone who's significant to our souls is impactful. The two are my pride and joy, I suppose, the people who I just was able to be myself with, that I could talk about things in business or I could talk about things of God, and they just lovingly accepted what I had to say. They didn't fight me on every turn, and when I made a mistake, I could simply say, I think you're right about that, and I'm sorry if I made a mistake. And in one particular case, the girl that I love said, well, that doesn't happen very often. And I thought, well, why shouldn't it happen? I mean, when you make a mistake, when you hurt somebody's feelings, when you insult someone accidentally, you're supposed to do what Jesus would do, which is to literally say, I am so sorry that I interfered in this. I'm so sorry that I didn't listen. I'm so sorry that I said the wrong thing. I'm just a socially inept guy, I guess. But the truth is, I'm not socially inept, and I'm sort of an old-fashioned man in many regards. And when I make a proposal of marriage, I sort of expect that I will be responded to in some way, shape, or form. And when I made that marriage proposal that the Lord asked me to write and gifted me of language, I literally did get a response. That individual that I proposed to literally showed up at a Target where I was, and I've told the story several times that I had spent most of the morning looking at opportunities for, well, if we were going to have a wedding list, what would we put on it, and what sort of things are good quality products, and the Lord was leading me to different things that are of good capabilities. And then all of a sudden he said, all right, what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to now go down this aisle and go down south towards the entrance doors. And once you get to that particular aisle, I'd like you to turn right and walk beyond where the cashiers are and walk closely along where the bathrooms lead. And I'd like you to really pay attention a moment. And the minute that I turned that corner, the angel said to me, doesn't the Lord keep his promises? And lo and behold, right in front of me was the most beautiful woman I've ever seen in my life, literally strolling with a cart with their glasses on and her phone in her hand. And I said, what do I do, Lord? And the Lord said, just walk by, please. And I remember saying the minute I saw her, oh, my love, I uttered out of my own belief of how I feel. I haven't seen her in a long time. I had been really upset with God about that. But there's always a timing for every single season in the Lord's plan for our lives. And the reason I was asked to walk by was because later that evening, when I slept on a sofa bed outside of one of the places I had found many nights during the freezing cold to sleep, that literally someone assaulted me. And I knew that if we had spent that evening together, that she would have been harmed too. And I guess that's why I haven't reached out. I guess that's why I haven't called. I guess that's why I haven't uttered her name very often, because in truth, I don't ever want that to occur to her or anyone else. I know that when they incarcerated me, the Lord had told me to take one of her photographs, a small one that I always kept in my wallet, and slide it into my underpants. I have 3 pairs of underpants, allegedly I still do, unless they've been stolen from me and part of the hate crime, that have a pouch in the front for carrying keys and wallets and credit cards when you go running or jogging or working out, so that you don't have to worry about whether or not your athletic shorts have pockets or not, and whether or not things kind of jump out when you're walking or doing things athletic. I mean, it makes total sense. The company did a pretty good job, except the pockets tend to go way down deep into the kind of nether regions, and it makes it a little tough sometimes to get things out. But at any rate, I literally had slid one of those photographs in there because of the Lord's request. And that later that day, I got taken off to some place that I wasn't really thrilled to be, but when I got my pants back, the photo was gone. Officer Stiles was the one who made me strip down to the next to nothingness of what they require, and openly it was sort of a vile act. I'm an old man who gets cold sort of easily, and after sweating all day and then being out in the cold, it's sort of a condition for getting ill. The good news is that the Lord is trying to keep me, and so I don't have that many illnesses, because anything that people try to give me to try and harm my life, the Lord just has me eat something, and that in itself puts it out of my system. You see, when the God in heaven is protecting you, it's a totally different story than when a man is protecting you. When the Lord says, I am your grantor, I am your creator, I am the one who will keep you safe from all harm, you kind of sit up and listen. And what I have learned in my life of submitting every single thing, and I mean everything, to how I conduct my day, to where I go to explore, to the adventures that I've been on, that every time, literally every time, the Lord has provided me such education, such beauty and wonder, such magic, that I'll never trade it for a million years. So when I'm looking for a life partner, I'm looking for someone who can kind of get what the magic of God is about, who can understand that the magic of Jesus that he performed in his miraculous works that we've heard about our entire life in Bible studies that have been repeated to us multiple times in sermons are really true. And that if you give all to the Lord, you may end up in poverty, you may end up in wealth, you may end up in riches, but the reality is you know that you're headed there with the help of God, with the hand of God. And in life, I need to have someone to hold a hand with, someone to literally hold my hand while I'm waking or while I'm asleep. That was something that my previous spouse and I did regularly, that we would literally go to sleep, but we would hold hands. And then at some point, we'd go through our little ritual where I would turn over to my left side and she would turn over to her left side, and then she'd spoon me. For whatever reason, that's how we did things. And I can't remember if it was the same way with the previous girlfriend, but I know that there was always cuddling, that cuddling is a part of life. And after she left, I remember having to put some of our large pillows in her place because it was hard to be in bed, in a queen-size bed, without that person right there. I know that a lot of people experience that loss when they either lose a life partner through death, or whether they lose a partner through divorce, or whether they just lose someone in particular. And it's never fair to put a child in that place, because a child in bed with adults is not a wise idea. It's not a wise idea for a lot of reasons. It's not a wise idea for the safety of the child. It's not a wise idea for the intimacy of the couple that can be spontaneous, and then you're like, what do we do with the kid now? And it's not wise to do things while the child is still around, because the truth is a child can wake and then they're getting an education that they don't need. But in reality, when I talk about these real things, people think, why is he talking about these? Well, I talk about the things that the Lord leads me to talk about. That the woman that I love, that I've never stopped loving, that I openly love, despite the fact that I still have love in my heart and soul for the first two gals that I had in my life, it's not the same level. While I still love my Japanese spouse, she's moved on. She has a new husband. She has a new way of living. She doesn't even look the same in her face anymore. And I know this because I've seen pictures posted, and I see she's more aligning herself physically with him. And I've only seen one shot, actually, one thumbnail print of someone I dated for a long time in college, and it was sort of a miraculous thing that my visual capabilities are so sound that I literally saw a thumbprint and go, that's her, when I went and I did the name check of people and Facebook to discover that the person that I saw actually, and the stance that I noticed, the very subtle way that the child was standing there, was actually a daughter of hers, and she and her husband had produced multiple children. But she had that particular gait, and that gait was hers, but it was also her mother's. I noticed that when I went home with her to where they were staying at the time, because he worked in the Pentagon, her father did, that is, and she literally stood precisely in the same toes-out fashion as her mom. And that was something that my mother was always very sort of thoughtful about and regardful about, was making sure that when we walked with a particular way. Now, I probably got it wrong of which way the toe is pointing, because it's been a history lesson, really, of talking about those things. But the truth is that in life, when a man is telling a story, he's telling a story. That story is his, and when a girl tells a story, she tells a story that's hers. And in life, when stories intertwine, it's when it's the most beautiful, because the lives of people are supposed to intertwine. They're supposed to intertwine in this delicate little dance that says, we are one in spirit, we are one in thought, and we can do so much more when we're with someone than when we're alone. When people go through struggles, they do one of two things with the people that they really deeply care for. They either invite them in and enfold them in their life and they get help from them regularly, which sort of happened with me and the gal that I love now, or they rage at them to the point that they reject them in life and they simply say, I can't handle you near me because of the fear of being loved that well. I've experienced both with the woman that I love. And openly, she cannot prove to me that she doesn't love me, because if she doesn't love me, she'd have no problem running into me at the store. She'd have no problem, doing things that people naturally do when there's an intimacy level, regardless of whether or not there's a physical intimacy level. There wasn't anything like that. It was all very professional. It was all very kind and caring. It was all very friendship-oriented. But there is a point at which a man says, this relationship is so wholesome for me, so incredibly intellectually stimulating for me, that I'd really like this for a lifetime. And I'd really like your wit, your wisdom, and your wealth of knowledge to be a part of my life forever. And that's sort of what I was doing when I was putting together those trunks in my storage unit, of putting together kind of a creative little box that says, these are all the things I'm hoping and praying for in our life together. Won't you please marry me? And I was looking forward to giving that to her and giving her a chance to think about it and look it over and mull it over and do the things that a woman who is being proposed to is willing to do. You see, too many people rush into other relationships and they literally end up getting something similar to what they had before, but almost aligned in a way that's somewhat different. I was experiencing that with her, and that she was raging so much I just couldn't handle it anymore. I was losing my life, I was losing my wife, I was losing my life partner, and I didn't want to have to deal with it anymore. But I also had to deal with it, which meant I couldn't be something new and great for someone who was in the process of grief and rage, and I couldn't be someone super and great for someone who was literally departing me. In life, we have moments of time to make a difference for someone, and when I talk about the one I love, I talk about her because I love her. And I want women to know that, so that they don't put the moves on me, so that they don't give me the eyes that I don't even understand anymore. And frankly, that's not how it works in my world. Usually what ends up happening is that a girl will simply come alongside me, take my hand, and that's it. From that point on, I know that we're good. I know that it's okay to go wherever I need to go there. And the truth is that in life, the intimacy between people is really the intimacy between two people. It's not an act of a church. It's not an act of God. It's not an act for people to talk about or whisper about or gossip about. That intimate moment, those times together, are between those two people and the Lord. And when people don't listen well, they often hurt themselves. When they don't hear correctly, they often end up in marriages and in other places, like we do here at Starbucks on Illinois, and I guess I'm at 56th Street where I walk today, that in truth we have ways to say, I love you, without it going awry. In life, we have moments of time to say all the difference in the world to people that we care about. And sometimes just a mere point of, this is who we're looking for, is enough to move a mountain. In life, we have moments of time to make a difference for people, and I thank you for listening to my audiocast.